Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 3, Canto 3, Chapter 32, verses 29 and 30. Verse number 29. Yatha mahan aham rupas trivrit pancha vidha swarat ekadasha vidhastasya vapur andam jagat yatha. Translation. From the total energy, the Mahat Tattva, I have manifested the false ego, the three modes of material nature, the five material elements, the individual consciousness, the 11 senses, and the material body. Similarly, the entire universe has come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, purport by His Divine Grace. The Supreme Lord is described as Mahatpada, which means that the total energy known as Mahat Tattva is lying at His lotus feet. The origin or the total energy of the cosmic manifestation is the Mahat Tattva. From the Mahat Tattva, all the other 24 divisions have sprung, namely the 11 senses, including the mind, the five sense objects, the five material elements, and then consciousness, intelligence, and false ego. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of the Mahat Tattva. And therefore, in one sense, because everything is an emanation from the Supreme Lord, there is no difference between the Lord and the cosmic manifestation. But at the same time, the cosmic manifestation is different from the Lord. The word Swarat is very significant here. Swarat means independent. The Supreme Lord is independent, and the individual soul is also independent. Although there is no comparison between the two qualities of independence, the living entity is minutely independent, and the Supreme Lord is fully independent. As the individual soul has material body made of five elements and the senses, the Supreme Independent Lord similarly has this gigantic body of the universe. The individual body is temporary. Similarly, the entire universe, which is considered to be the body of the Supreme Lord, is also temporary. And both the individual and material bodies are products of the Mahat Tattva. One has to understand the differences with intelligence. Everyone knows that his material body has developed from a spark, and similarly, the universal body has developed from the supreme spark, super soul. As the individual body develops from the individual soul, the gigantic body of the universe develops from the super soul, supreme soul. Just as the individual soul has consciousness, the supreme soul is also conscious. But although there is a similarity between the consciousness of the supreme soul and the consciousness of the individual soul, the individual soul's consciousness is limited, whereas the consciousness of the supreme soul is unlimited. This is described in Bhagavad Gita 13.3. Kshetra Kshetragnyam chapi mam vidhi. The mam vidhi. The super soul is present in every field of activity, just as the individual soul is present in the individual body. Both of them are conscious. The difference is that the individual soul is conscious of the individual body only, whereas the super soul is conscious of the total number of individual bodies. Verse number 30. एताद्वै श्रद्धया भक्त्या योगाभ्यासेन नित्यशः समाहितात्मा निसंगो विरक्त्या परिपश्यति. Translation. This perfect knowledge can be achieved by a person who is already engaged in devotional service with faith, steadiness, and full detachment, and who is always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme. He is aloof from material association. Purport. The atheistic mystic practitioner of yoga cannot understand this perfect knowledge. Only persons who engage in practical activities of devotional service in full Krishna consciousness can become absorbed in full samadhi. It is possible for them to see and understand the actual fact of the entire cosmic manifestation and its cause. It is clearly stated here that this is not possible to understand for one who has not developed devotional service in full faith. The words Samahitatma and Samadhi are synonymous. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातः वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं। वञ्चकल्पतरुषु कृपासिन्धुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. So, the verses which we are reading today, in the first verse, Prabhupada actually mentions that there is difference, even though there is no difference between us and the Lord, there is still difference. And what is that called? Yes, that is called Achinta Bheda Bhed Tattva. That we are simultaneously one and difference at the same time. So this our Gaudiya Parampara, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us uh, gave us this philosophy, which is the philosophy of the spiritual world. Yes, you can have difference, which is a valid which is a valid tattva, and you can have similarity, which is also a valid tattva. So both of them are involved. But you can have, if you see other sampradayas, like even Madhva Sampradaya, we are in Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Madhvacharya came to give us the Dvaita philosophy. Yes. And that's why when we read Brahma Samhita, I was reading that day, I was hearing a class on Brahma Samhita. So there is oneness and difference in Brahma Samhita. Both are given. So that's why it is difficult uh, to capture just Dvaita aspect from Brahma Samhita, because there is oneness also over there. So how is it possible? And that's why when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found Brahma Samhita, it actually proves our Siddhanta of our Gaudiya Parampara, which is Achinta Bheda Bhed Tattva. So we are minute, very, very minute, independent souls. Minute independent souls. That means we have independence, but how big is the independence? It's very minute. That it's actually infinitesimally small. Yes. And Krishna is infinitely big. That's why we say that there is no difference between us and the Lord, which is very important to understand why. Because that's why we always seek eternal happiness. That's why we always seek eternal relationships. Yes. This is a very important aspect, is that if because today is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day, and he is the propounder, that in the whole of India, actually, he established Gaudiya Maths to spread Krishna consciousness. And then Srila Prabhupada himself took it all over the whole world. And Prabhupada always says that, if we read Krishna Tava Punya Habe by the poem given by Srila Prabhupada on his journey to Boston on the Jaladuta, New York, you would say. Over there, the first three verses, first two verses are related to his Guru Maharaj, to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it is written over there, that uh, Krishna tava punya habe bhai, e punya koribe jabe, Radha Rani khushi hobe. Yes. How will Krishna be happy if Radha Rani is not happy? And then Prabhupada writes that Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Sachi Sutta Priyati. Krishna Seva Jala Tulanai. That means that Sri Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is such a great devotee of Sachi Sutta, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that there is no limit to his devotion. Yes. So he goes with the first two or three verses glorifying his Guru Maharaj. And what did Prabhupada say? I've heard in Gauranga Prabhu's lecture, it's mentioned that Prabhupada had full faith in the holy name and in his instructions of his Guru Maharaj. That is how strong and that is how special Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is. You know, he is the Simha Guru, like we all know. We've heard this coined word, Simha Guru, the Lion Guru. He, because Mayavadis, because this today it is very easy for anybody to fall into Mayavad, which means that I am God, you are God, everybody is God, or there is no God, or there is that supreme Brahman and there is nothing else. Everything is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. You know, so that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very strong on this point. I have heard this past time where one of the Mayavadi sannyasis was walking on the road with his disciple, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was walking, from the other side. That sannyasi comes actually in front of him. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he is a sannyasi himself. He gives him a tight whack. He gives him a tight slap directly on the face in front of everyone, and he says, "Why are you looting people? Why are you cheating people by giving your Mayavad philosophy?" Yeah, he was so strong, and because he himself had that faith. Yes, he himself had that faith that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a form. There is an eternal relation with the Lord. It's not just Maya. It's not just, you know, something within Krishna which we need to worship. No, Krishna himself is the Supreme Absolute Truth. Yes, we are not worshipping something inside Krishna like the others say. No, we are not doing that. If that is not our line. And so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is that Simha Guru who comes to remove all this nonsense, is the bogus philosophy. Because Mayavad philosophy does not exist. It is actually just an imagination. It actually does not exist. So in today's purport, it actually suits apt, for today's appearance day of this. So today's day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because it is written in the next verse, right? It says that this perfect knowledge can be achieved by a person who's already engaged in devotional service with faith, steadiness, and full detachment. Yes, and that's why the atheistic mystic practitioner of yoga cannot understand this perfect knowledge. And this is a very important point to understand, is that with our own degree of intelligence, with our own degree of austerity, with our own degree of any amount of skill and material knowledge, we will not be able to understand what Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is. Yes, it is not possible by our own strength that we can actually understand the Supreme Lord. It actually takes the mercy of the Lord for us to understand Him, and this has to be always true, whether we are perfect devotees or imperfect devotees. Why? Because as perfect devotees, we are always dependent on the Lord. When we will be perfect, we are always dependent. There is no illusion that we are controllers and enjoyers. Janasya mohoyam mamiti. There is no illusion that we are God. And in imperfect sadhana stage also, we have to recognize that it is it is not by our own will. It is by the mercy of the acharyas and the devotees that we can actually understand Krishna. Yes, Madhavendra Puri, when he was actually in separation in his later stages of life, Ishvara Puri actually was serving him. He served him so nicely that Madhavendra Puri blessed him that you may get Krishna. Yes. And it is due to these acharyas and due to these devotees that we actually can understand Krishna. And then we can understand the process of bhakti. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his life also, like Prabhupada used to mention, that he used to always depend on the Lord. Even though he got the status of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Saraswati, he got the title of Saraswati, where he could actually know, you know, everything perfectly from Jyotish, from astrology. Like when he's walking down the road, if there's a mango tree and there are mangoes on the tree, he can look at the sky and tell, when that mango will fall down. That was his power of study. That was his power of the Shastras. That was his power of, faith in the Shastra. And even after doing that, yes, even after doing that, what does he say when it was, when he had to do something, very important or not very important also? Like, oh Guru, somebody who would come to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and like, please bless me so that I can be successful in my preaching mission. And he would say that if Krishna wants, yes, so may be it. You know, if Krishna wants. Why? Because he understood that the supreme controller is Krishna. Yes, the controller of all controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigra, Anadi Radhir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the supreme controller of everything. And without his mercy, nothing can move. Without his sanction, nothing can happen. So if Krishna wants, may you be successful. Yes, may you be successful. And in the previous verse also, Prabhupada mentions that Krishna is everything. Sarva Karana Karana. So to recognize Krishna, yes, within our laptops, yes, to recognize Krishna when we are brushing our teeth, to recognize Krishna when we are taking a walk outside, to recognize Krishna when we are actually taking care of our children, to recognize Krishna when we are taking a bath. You know, all these aspects are related to the Lord. Why? Because everything is the Lord, but not in the sense that He doesn't have a separate identity. Yes, He has a separate identity. At the same time, He is everything. That is Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. Yes, He is this cell phone. He is this curtain. He is that AC over there. He is the plants. Yes, He is the pillow. He is the ground which we are sitting on. He is everywhere. But at the same time, He has His own separate identity. And the example is given like we've seen it in Canto 2, like the spider who weaves the web. You know, the spider, the web is coming from the spider, but the spider does not get entangled in the web. Yes, everybody else can get entangled in the web, but the spider doesn't. So that is how the Supreme Personality of Godhead also does the same thing. He is everything. It is His energy. We are His energy. Tathastha Shakti, marginal potency of the Lord. But at the same time, we are given that minute independence by the Lord to try to enjoy how much ever we can. If we are able to uh, serve the Lord with our full independence, if we are able to serve the Lord, then we'll be able to understand His glories. Then we will be able to understand Him. How Krishna is such a nice person. And that's why the Bhagwan aspect of the Lord is superior to Brahman and Paramatma. And we start with Brahma, the Bhagwan aspect. And then we come down to Paramatma and uh, Brahman aspect of the Lord. But the Mayavadis, yes, which we are totally against because today is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day. We are totally against. Uh, yes, maybe for preaching contemporary reasons, we are soft and all here and there, but we have to be very careful. We don't abide by anything what they say, nothing at all. You know, first of all, we come in the line of Madhvacharya, and then we come in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? We don't abide by anything because it is a insult to the Lord. Yes. Somebody, actually, I'll end with this small thing. Um, Somebody was actually telling me that, why are you so strong, that you can say all this stuff. They are also doing very nicely. What is the problem with these modern gurus, who is saying this, who is saying that? They are at least trying to be vegetarian or vegan, or they are spreading, uh, you know God consciousness and all that stuff. And and then I was explaining it to them that because they're subtly, if you read their philosophy, if you read what they're trying to do, they're subtly saying that सब कुछ चलता है, everything is fine. Whatever you think is right, यथा मत तथा पथ, whatever you think is perfect, whatever you think is right, whatever you do is right. Just do what I am saying. If you don't believe in God, it's fine. If you don't accept any religion, it's fine. But you accept what I say. This is Mayavad totally. Because you don't want to accept Shastra, you don't want to accept the supreme authority, and you want to do your own thing. Yes. And this is so subtle that people won't get it. And that's why the most dangerous position which Mahaprabhu mentions is to hear from a Mayavadi. Yes, we have to be very careful um, because watching YouTube and all, right, you see all this going on, you know. But that's why it is said like there are Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, and that's why Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so strong, and even Srila Prabhupada himself, it's always there in his purports that this verse beats the Mayavad philosophy. This verse says this. That's why the Mayavad philosophy does not work over here. So we have to be always careful. And that's why today's day is very special regarding the philosophy and Siddhanta which Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur established. And that's why we pray at his lotus feet. That he can give us that intelligence to discern between matter and spirit, to discern between which is Mayavad and not Mayavad, and to not be Mayavadis ourselves because we certainly are somewhere. It's the conditioning is there. So yes, so today we pray to him so that we can get that mercy and actually